Hello everyone, welcome back. I have some updates for you on the bike, the Honda Nighthawk, but I have a couple other things to talk about, mainly like where I've been the past six months. I seem to disappear for long lengths at a time without posting much content, but I do have some content for you guys. I actually, again, wrote it all down because I seem to lose track of what I'm talking about sometimes. But I do have some updates on the bike, but lots of other updates as well. So let me just go through them. I don't want to spend too much time on this, but I did want to give you just a general update. I know some people were interested in stuff on the truck. Other people were interested on stuff with the Chevy. So just general garage slash life updates and why updates are taking so long. But anyway, so on the truck, honestly, basically, this is going to be a lot of truck stuff. So on the truck, get out of here, fly. No one even asked you to be here. Start paying rent if you're going to be here that much. On the truck, I did spark plugs and spark plug wires, and then I rebuilt the distributor. I actually, in reinstalling the distributor, accidentally put it about, I think, 180 degrees out of phase. So trying to start it was just lots of backfire, and it didn't want to start. So after some help from a friend, realized it was out of phase, turned it 180 degrees, we were all okay. After doing that work to the truck, I actually had a small period of having shingles in my face. It started off on the right side and slowly came around near the eye. Seriously, one of the most painful experiences I've had in my entire life. If you've ever had a headache and you know that it's kind of like just sinusoidal pain where it's like on off a little bit, it's not too bad, but if you lay down and you drink some water, it goes away. This was like every 10 seconds someone beating on the side of my head with a hammer. Extremely painful. I actually had a very rare side effect called Ramsay-Hunt syndrome after the fact, where the right half of my face was paralyzed and I had a slight droop. So I had to tape my eye to fall asleep. I had no taste at all. And you have any idea how depressing it is to bite into pizza and then not taste the pizza at all? It's like, what's the point? One day I finally woke up about 3 weeks later after initially getting those symptoms, and I could taste food, and I almost honestly teared up because that's how long it had been since I had tasted food. So it actually even came back a second time. We don't think that we completely got rid of the shingles the first time around. It came back around the other side of my head, and that again was very painful. I was in Florida when that happened, so I had to wait till I could come home to get some more medicine for it. But all in all, I'm now clear. Did some scans of the brain. I definitely have a brain, so that's good news. And have not had any, knocking on wood, issues since then. So anyway, back to the garage products. So on the truck, I did a lot of maintenance for some leaks that I was seeing. Oil, transmission fluid, differential fluid. So I repainted the valve covers. I gave them I think it was whatever the cheapest engine enamel color I could get. So repainted them. I redid the window switches. I was having an issue where the window would sometimes go down and not come back up. I think the contacts had built up some grime or corrosion, and I just had to go in there and clean it up. I did a new gauge trim on the front. It was all destroyed and cracked and broken on the one side, and I found a guy in a nearby town who was parting out his truck, and I asked him, hey, can I get the gauge cluster that you have in your truck? Because those are apparently very notorious for breaking. So I just replaced that. I did all new front steering components, so the steering is rock solid. I did go get it aligned. We'll talk about that in a little bit. I rebuilt the rear differential completely, except I didn't swap out the gears, so the ring and pinion were actually in really good shape. The mesh pattern and the wear pattern looked pretty solid to me, so I wasn't too worried about that, but it had no more limited slip, and I'll see if I can find a video, but if you actually put the truck in neutral, you could grab the drive shaft and move it around. The pinion was not tightened down. It's supposed to be torqued to 200 or something foot-pounds, and it was very clearly not that. I was leaking oil out the back, and it made a horrible grinding sound. And again, I'll show some pictures of the wear that I was seeing on the pinion bearings and the pinion seats where the bearings actually seal up against. And once I replaced those, the sound went away. You can hear a little whine at about 40 to 45 miles an hour, but that's pretty typical if you don't have the backlash set perfectly. And we were just going for good enough since that has 240,000 miles on it. Redid the rear brakes because it was like $16, so why not? I did the transmission gasket and filter, and when we took out the transmission pan and the magnet was there, there was a piece of a band clamp, or band clip, I believe, that goes in the like input drum area, and then some Torrington bearing pieces. And I've rebuilt an automatic transmission. I did it on the Chevy. That's a 4L60E transmission. I am not doing it again. It's not a lot of fun, and I would not recommend doing it unless you absolutely have to. So if this transmission just shoots the bed, I'm just gonna buy a remanufactured one or an old one that's not dead. So I basically looked at it, went nope, shoved it back up, and oh well. On the Chevy, I had some ignition issues where I was actually getting some spark jumping around from the ignition coil to the air intake manifold, which made no sense because that's made of rubber. How did that happen? But anyway, so I had spark issues, some missing. I also had the engine was under hard acceleration, the entire thing would shudder, and we believe we finally diagnosed that as being, believe it or not, the engine coolant temperature sensor was reporting really weird values. There was a short inside, so I think maybe when you gave it heavy throttle or something, things moved around, things heated up, and it would just go into limp mode, basically. Let's see. I think there was something else there that we had done. I don't remember. If I remember, I'll bring it up later. Back to the truck, I did new ball joints because we realized when I rolled backwards, the tires went out into like that stance view look, which is not good on a truck. So reinstalled and built new ball joints. And then after that, I went to Switzerland. I went there for 8 days. I did a motorcycle. Basically just go around and see a bunch of views. I'll share some pictures on screen of a couple of my favorites. The views are just absolutely unbelievable. The mountains, the rolling hills, everything on either side of you going straight up, and just those views are amazing. I also did a round of golf out there at Cran-sur-Sierre, I think it's pronounced, but that's where they do the European Masters. So really, really awesome golf course, and I had a wonderful time out there. Back home, then I went back into the truck. I restored the headlights. Went to the shooting range with a friend, and we destroyed the crap out of some watermelon and some clay targets. There we go.
Did it explode? It just fell apart.
Back home on the truck, I found a big construction nail in the tire. I didn't actually know it was a nail. I was looking on the wrong tire because I just had the driver's side window down. I thought it was on the rear driver's side tire, but it's actually on the rear passenger tire. I wasn't leaking any air out of it, and took it to a place and had them patch it. While I was there, I had them do an alignment. They did the alignment really weird. The steering wheel was actually cocked like 90 degrees clockwise, so I sat down and went, this isn't right. So I had them refix that, apparently. I don't know, whatever. Anyway, I cleaned one of the tire rims. If you've seen any pictures, the rims are really corroded and have a lot of buildup on them. So I cleaned and polished and turned that down, and turned out really nice. It shined right up. It looks basically brand new. I just need to find time and motivation to do the other three. It's a really weird looking truck, so it lives up to its very strange looking name. The front differential, I cleaned and changed the differential fluid. When it came out, it looked like milk. So pro tip, differential fluid should not look like milk. Generally, if you see like that white milky color, it's because of water getting into the differential. So cleaned up the cover, put a new gasket on, changed out the fluid, good to go. That was just more of a maintenance thing. There was really no reason to do that. I added keyless entry to the truck, which honestly was such a pain figuring out wiring diagrams, and then I just bought like a universal box, and this thing would, you know, when you hit lock and it it honks your horn for a tenth of a second. Well, this thing was laying on the horn for a solid second, and my father and I are looking at it like, you really want to be that guy who, when he hits lock, it just lays on the horn? And not only that, but when you hit unlock, it would beep twice, and then if you hit the trunk release, which this truck obviously doesn't have, it would beep 3 times, and we're like, well, what is this? So, thankfully, he's an electrical engineer, so he was able to help me look at the board, figure out where to cut traces, and rewire it so that we only had the horn honk on the lock button and only go off for a tenth of a second. And hopefully later on I can use that trunk release as a remote start option. So maybe another video on that. Honestly, I should do an entire video on just the keyless entry because that was extremely difficult to find out, and hopefully it can help other people. I cleaned out the contacts on the inside of the intermittent wipers. I was having an issue where like the first setting would work for 15 seconds or however long it is, and then all the rest of the settings were still on that 15 seconds except for the last one, which is basically on very slowly. So there was no in between, so I cleaned up the contacts and it's working really nice now. Redid the power steering pump, and unfortunately in pulling off this power steering pump pulley I punctured the radiator, so I had to get a new radiator, which I guess isn't a bad thing. But it probably could have gone a lot longer. I don't think there were many miles on that radiator. Thankfully, with eBay and having another vehicle to drive, I don't have to worry about turning things around super quickly, so I can kind of just order parts and let them come in. I just have to thank my father for letting me use his big garage and dealing with having a 25-foot truck inside. And that's basically it for other projects other than the bike. As far as the bike is concerned, I did clean and polish the valve cover, so I will try and find an old photo of what it used to look like. This is aluminum, so this was a little more difficult to polish than I would have liked. You also have to be very careful when polishing these things because of aluminum dust, so always wear a respirator and some glasses. Otherwise, like if you go to blow your nose, you'll see all that dust. It's very dangerous to breathe in aluminum dust. How corroded it was, and now how it's looking nice and shiny. And this kind of set me back a while because I had to find something that was abrasive enough to take off the corrosion but not too abrasive to cut into the aluminum. And from testing it on the truck tire actually to get that polished up, I went, that's actually going to work really well for the valve cover, and I decided to do that. So in short, that's all I have for the Honda Nighthawk. This was kind of, I should have like garage updates as one videos and Nighthawk as the other. And what I'd like to do is try and do maybe a video a month, or just even if I come out here for an hour or something at a time and just slowly tick away at it. I would really like to get this bike done, get all the painting done this summer, and then start putting parts back on because I don't want to wait around another season when it's cold out waiting to paint the stuff. Anyway, that's all I have for you guys. That's the update that I wanted to do. And I hope you've been enjoying and following along. If you guys have any questions or any suggestions or thoughts on this video or other topics you'd like to see, if you want to see more truck videos, if you want to see Chevy videos, or the Suzuki, I don't actually think I've really even talked that much about this bike. But this is my currently working bike. I sold the other Virago. So if you want to see any videos on this bike or anything else in general, just let me know. I'd be happy to make some more videos for you guys. So anyway, thanks for watching, and hope to see you guys next time.